Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel for our preview stream, I guess, first and foremost. But obviously, in these times of Chelsea Football Club, there's a few other things that we need to discuss. Obviously, we've discussed it in a little bit of detail. The whole Roman Abramovich has decided to sell Chelsea. And potential buyers, obviously, there's new potential buyers on the scene. Also, I'm joined by two guests who I haven't discussed the matter with on this channel yet. Obviously, I was on Charlie's channel a couple of days ago when it was actually announced. By the way, subscribe to Charlie's channel and subscribe to Ian's channel. But there's still a lot to get through. And also, we have a big game tomorrow. Like, I say a big game, we're not fighting for the Premier League. But, if we play a good game tomorrow, if we win, as much as this whole Roman selling and potential awful new owners is very depressing, a good win tomorrow would all, make us feel better. So, from that point of view, even just that makes it a big game, in my opinion. As, I kind of introduced two of my three guests already. I will start with you, Charlie. Charlie, thank you for coming, as always, mate. First of all, I hope you're well. Crazy couple of days we've had at this club, haven't we?
Yeah, mate, thanks for having me, as always. Yeah, mate, it's been mad, really, hasn't it? There's never, as I said to you the other day, there's never a dull moment as a Chelsea fan. And, I can't believe it's been less than a week since all this news kind of first started breaking. It was obviously Saturday evening, and then it's kind of gathered pace since then. We've had a cup final, we've had a tricky FA Cup tie, and now we're fielding bids left, right, and centre, up to 10 potential bids if you're to believe the reports. And then we go again in the Premier League tomorrow. So, there's definitely a lot to get through.
There is a lot to get through, and that's the funny thing. What you said there, apparently up to 10 bids. And the only one that's really seriously been reported by, but funnily enough, all journalists, not just a couple, but all of them, the only person that really, reported on this is, Swiss Donny, Hans-Jörg Wyss with his American partners or whatever. That's the only one we've had any sort of real reporting on. Obviously, Conor McGregor's turned up on Twitter, but, let him do his tweeting. He's got nothing better to do, obviously. And also we've got this Turkish Donny, who is another one of these people who they love to talk. Like, stop talking. Like, why do you all have to feel this urgent need in yourself to talk so much? And that's the people will have, I don't want an American owner. I don't want a Turkish owner. First of all, that's racist. Second of all, it doesn't matter where they're from. I just don't want them to be shit, right? And if they talk to the media and they're like, I want to buy this, you're automatically a bit shit in my head. So that's why I don't want Hans-Jörg Wyss. That's why I don't want this Turkish Donny. But I would probably prefer the Turkish Donny just because he would come in by himself. And I personally, just from our experience at this club, I'd rather an individual that just has loads of money and just has a bit of fun. Like, obviously, we want him to care. We want him to be passionate. But if an owner wants to have fun with it and just pump some money in for the club, that's a good thing. As much as, we want the ideal world and the dream land, like it was with Roman Abramovich when you just focus on the football side of things. But how likely are we to ever going to get that again, right? So once you exclude that option, at least a little bit, then I'd rather someone like the Turkish guy than the other ones. But Ian, similar question as I've just posed to Charlie. It's been a crazy couple of days. I haven't really heard from you about this whole drama, shall we say. What are your thoughts? Like, gutted? Obviously, I saw your post, but gutted when we found out that Roman had to sell, especially gutted since the very same day as the statement, or was it the day after? Reports came out that it's not even guaranteed that Roman will actually be sanctioned. So I'm like, so why did he have to sell?
Yeah, it's been very difficult in terms of exactly how to process this. I mean, I'm lucky. I'm 24 years of age. I've only ever known Roman as our owner. And he's been incredible for us. He has been incredible. And I saw a video earlier. I don't know if you saw it or not. The Rory, when he did a reaction to Rory Jennings.
No, I haven't seen it, but I've heard about it.
Yeah, I won't go too much into it. Other people go and watch it whenever you get a chance and whatever. But he was basically saying that he's kind of happy that Roman's going. And I understand there's definitely two sides to this argument in terms of certain people will be a fan of it, other people won't. I'm one of the people that's not necessarily a fan of it. Not necessarily for anything Chelsea related. I just personally, I want to give credit where it's due to someone who, in my eyes, has been absolutely superb in terms of ownership of Chelsea Football Club. And I think he's been wicked. I really do. And, for me, for me personally, I mean, my dad grew up in the 70s and 80s, went to go and watch Chelsea home and away, all sorts of stuff. From where we were, 30 years ago, 40 years ago, whatever it be, to where we are now, is an incredible ride. And I understand there's certain people that are frustrated about it because, of course, Romans go in, the unpredictability surrounding it. Are we going to win as many trophies? Are we going to be as successful? But at the same time, I'm also looking at it thinking, that's not our job to worry about. We understand, we're all going to care for our football club, but all we can do is support. When you sign up for this thing, pretty much for most of us is at birth or very early on in our lives. You don't sign up just because we're going to be successful. You have to go through all the motions. And I think it can be. I think it's going to be really tough, whichever way it goes, in terms of whether Roman does have to sell it and everything works out, and whether it be the next couple of weeks. So, I know there's already one bid that's gone in, and the American contingent or whatever is going to put a collective bid in at some point this weekend, I think. But there's so many different areas in terms of this. And people are really worrying about it. And I understand why. Of course, you're concerned for your football club, but at the same time, I mean, you just got to do what we can do. It's out of our hands. We're not in control of it. My dad was Chelsea before Roman. Chelsea will exist after Roman, I'm sure. The only thing I am really kind of bummed out by it is that Roman's not going to get the send-off that he fully deserves, because he, for me, has been, I'm going to swear early doors in this stream, he has been the absolute dog's bollocks of an owner. And we're never going to replace him, regardless of who comes in, if they have 10 or 20 times the money. I mean, Roman has gifted us so many opportunities to make memories for, that many people would never have dreamed of when they started supporting Chelsea. And Roman, for me personally, to get criticised in the way that he has is really quite hurtful. I think he's been the dog's bollocks. I think he's been awesome. But, it's going to happen regardless. All I want to do is just give praise where it's due in terms of, the brilliant work that Roman Abramovich has done, because he has been absolutely phenomenal and no one will ever replace him.
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, in terms of like every legend we've had at this club, whether it's player, whether it's manager, since 2003, chances are wouldn't be the same statue of legend without Roman, making 100%. Roman arguably the biggest legend in history of this whole football club. I mean, you can debate about, obviously, the founders of the football club, because without those, no Roman, I guess. But in terms of, creating legends in and of itself, that doesn't happen without Roman. Not this way. Obviously, you can always say, well, maybe someone else would have bought us, but we don't know how that would have gone. I do agree with you in a way. Yeah, we can't control it, but then again, we also can't control what happens in football matches, and we still all
give our opinions. Of course.
So it's kind of what us especially, us three, Clutch to some extent included, basically being my co-host, but we're content creators, so we do have to do this. But I do see what you mean, and it's just, I also understand the point, and I haven't seen Rory's video. If I'm being perfectly honest with you, don't intend to watch it either. But what I've seen of his opinion in the past, in terms of being upset when Roman tried to buy Stamford Bridge or the pitch from the Chelsea pitch owners, and trying to relocate Stamford Bridge and stuff like that, him being particularly upset about that. As a pitch owner, if you're like deep-rooted, I can even see that to some extent. But what's to me funny about it, why he's so happy about Roman leaving, is him apparently thinking that the new owner won't do the same thing. Because the new owners, especially now that it's 2022, will be even less accepting of, what you mean some pitch owners are stopping me from making more money? Like, they'll have even less of that. So that's why I think it's, to be honest, kind of just hilarious that Rory doesn't see that, apparently.
Look at Hazard when he went to Real Madrid. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. It's people that are wishing it. People that are wishing it upon Roman and whatever. I don't personally agree with it. I understand why people have got their issues, but only time will tell, whether it is greener on the other side or if it's worse. I don't know. Who cares? All we can do is just continue to support Chelsea and do what we can do in terms of fans, and just give our loyalty and support, and hopefully it all works out for us. But yeah, I just absolutely think that, if we take anything from this, it's just appreciate how awesome of an owner Roman Abramovich has been.
Exactly. And I did also like the statement that the Chelsea Supporters Trust released, in terms of a few things that for them is really important, that whoever the new owner becomes, like, keep or, don't stop us doing. Number one, all of our not just charity work, but in terms of, I'm not sure what the right expression is, but in terms of work against all sorts of discrimination, whether it's the pride stuff, whether it's anti-Semitism, whether it's whatever it may be, like, we better not have an owner that comes in and stops us doing good, like we've created for years now. Another thing, continue supporting the women's team. Like, that's one of the huge things that, the one thing that, rivals, if they care at all about the women's team, they probably respect us for is how much, not just money, but also like resources outside of money, but in terms of media and, just PR power that we put into the women's team. And that's, in my opinion, I mean, again, I'm not an expert on women's football by any means, but in my opinion, it's made a huge difference in where women's football is right now in England. I don't think it would be where it is without Chelsea, what Roman Abramovich did with the football team, how much he invested into that. And the same goes for Cobham. So I did very much find that a good statement from the Supporters Trust, and I do, just agree with them, essentially. Clutch, just to give you something a little bit different, add a little bit of a detail to the question. Of course, we've discussed potential owners, we've discussed this Vistonian, we've discussed, to some extent, the Turkish guy. Obviously, if you want to comment on that, please do. But what has been released now, I lost. I have a question in mind while Ian's talking, and then I reply basically to what Ian's talking about, and then I forgot.
Oh, don't blame me for this. Don't blame me. That's not.
No. It's not your fault at all. It's just my own brain. Don't worry. What was it? That it's come out, some tweet. Oh man, you know what, Clutch? Just any. Come to me. I guarantee it will come to me. So I'll just ask you a little bit more simply. From the owners we've kind of been linked with so far, I'm not expecting you to have detailed information about anything or anyone, but is there anything that stands out to you of what you do like or what you dislike in terms of owners?
Well, I was kind of looking around yesterday, and I saw the Swiss guy talking about how he's not really wanting to spend money, but also that he's not going to be the main guy in this consortium, that it's going to be the guy from America, Todd Bowley or whatever his name is. I forget. But then today they were talking about the Turkish guy, who I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name because I'm not going to try to butcher something that I can't properly say. That he's friends with Roman, like pretty good friends with Roman.
Sorry, let me interrupt you because otherwise I'll forget again. The report that apparently Chelsea will try to not get a politically controversial owner in Britain, which to me was interesting because from the perspective that we were talking about in a group chat to some extent, and because you said, well, some Americans are controversial, and I completely agree with you. But the important detail of that report was in Britain. Just look at what's going on in Britain. No one gives a shit what dodgy things Americans do, whether they're corrupt, whether they produce tax evasion, whether they, whatever kind of wars all over the globe they support. Don't give a shit. As long as it's not Russian right now. And, they're not the biggest fans of the whole Middle Eastern stuff either, but they still even let that happen with Newcastle, obviously. Chinese, I mean, we haven't attempted that, but the report is that we're not really going to look into the Saudi and Chinese direction in terms of owner. Just add that kind of little detail to whatever you're going to say in a second, essentially. It's now that I remember. I do apologize about interrupting you again.
It's completely fine. But, I think to any extent, like, any billionaire can end up having a dark past. I don't think it's going to be limited. So I think that part of it is going to be really hard because at any moment you can come to find out, like, there's the guy from America who ended up getting caught in Florida in a trafficking ring, but he still owns the Patriots and whatever the other team he owns. But like, you could always have people that come out and find out stuff, and I don't expect whoever they're selling it to have like a perfect idea of the background, because I mean, you're just never always going to find the background of these characters. I think it's hard in that regard, trying to find somebody who is squeaky clean, because we all have dodgy past, no matter who we are. We're never going to have perfect records, so to say. So it is what it is. And I'm just kind of taking it as we go. I know that the Turkish guy, it came out that he's friends with Roman, so Roman might seem to trust him a little bit more with the club.
Turkish guy, that is.
Yes. Apparently, they're good
As
friends.
I was
I don't
out
know.
for the last 2.5 hours, I might have missed a couple of small things. I'm thankful that you mentioned that. Go on.
Yeah, it's in like a thing I read, but talk about how they're pretty good owners, and that's why he's more likely to get or that Romans to consider his bid. But it is what it is what it is for me. I'm trying to take it one time at a time or one step at a time. Whatever happens, like take it as we go, because I can't guarantee that money doesn't talk. I trust Roman to make the best decision for the club that he needs to in this moment, because it's going to be an important step for the club. So, and that's where I'm kind of at. And I also want to thank Ian for trying to get Mitrovic to Chelsea. He's doing the scouting work, and I love it.
I do agree. Let me just highlight this comment here by Chelsea Fanatic, and I did mention this on Wednesday when we was talking about the whole situation. Obviously, now it's just another example of this Turkish businessman. The fact that they just posted this on Instagram, essentially, and on their website, yeah, we're buying, we're trying to buy Chelsea, we're in negotiations with Abramovich's lawyers. To me, it's just similar to that Swiss guy. I can't take any billionaire that sits there and comes out into the media like, yeah, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I've never seen a billionaire that does things like that as serious. Maybe with the one exception being Elon Musk, but he just does that because he's that famous, right? Because he's so rich that he became famous. Rather than if he was just rich, I don't think he would be doing that either. So it swings and roundabouts. But I do agree in a way. I don't know much about this Turkish guy. But the fact that they released it the way they did, made it announced almost that we're going to try, to me means he's not getting it. Not because Roma will choose against him, but just because I don't think it, not real, but as in, you're not as serious if you do that. Like, I feel like if you spend even any ounce of energy in your mind on what you put on your Instagram while you're trying to buy something for £2 billion upwards, then you ain't serious. Do you know what I mean? That's my perspective on it. I could be very, very wrong on this, obviously, but that's my perspective on it. Ian, if I ask you, do you see what I mean with that? Like, if you're too public about it, it's just like, it doesn't seem serious, does it? I mean, again, I could be wrong.
Yeah, literally a comment just gone in down there at the bottom. Roman was not famous until he became Chelsea owner. That's a really good point. I mean, how many statements has
you
Roman
can call
made
that sport washing as well if you want, but yeah, no, go on.
But I mean, you look at it big term. I mean, how many statements did Roman make in his 20 years as Chelsea owner? How many from Roman? From the club, there's been a few, but from Roman, how many has there been? About 10, if that. No. Not many at all. I like the quieter approach. It's not the Bowley guy. I don't know too much about him, but he wants to be a front man. You can see he wants to be a front man. You can see he wants to be the face. The Newcastle owners, whose name I won't even try to pronounce, the lady whose name again I can't even remember. She's known. Everyone knows her. Everyone knows exactly who she is, what she's doing. She's not particularly public. But then she comes out and says that she doesn't think that Roman Abramovich should have been forced to sell Chelsea and it was unfair and whatever. I like people that say less. Roman was brilliant at that because he didn't get involved in stuff where he didn't necessarily know everything involved. He didn't make statements that maybe he shouldn't have got involved in. When Frank got sacked, he made a statement completely, 100%. And that's the thing. He talks about what he knows about. It's smart business. It's smart. And that's the other thing in terms of Newcastle. They came out really early and said they're going to sign this person, this person, this person, this person. And if it never worked out, they were just like mugs, and that's the way that it will be. Unfortunately, that's the way it will go. I just want someone who's a bit more relaxed, a bit more calm, still cares, of course, but caring isn't always just about constantly showing affection to everyone or what could be seen as affection. It's just about doing things smart. And if there's one thing that Roman was, he is one of the smartest people in terms of the football industry. He's been absolutely superb. So just someone who's a bit more reserved and relaxed is something that I probably quite like. I don't know who that is, but I'd probably bank it's not Bowley or the Turkish guy or was it with Saudi people who turned around and said they were Chelsea fans or something like that? I think I can't remember. One of them. I think one of them posted a picture.
Definitely agree.
Yeah, it's just be a bit more reserved. I think that's surely got to be half the thing that makes you a billionaire in the first place.
Yeah, I'm not saying for me they don't need to be as extremely reserved and as extremely private as Roman Abramovich necessarily, but there is a little bit of a limit to it. But at the same time, one other thing that I've seen a lot of people mention that they really care about for some, to me, odd reason is, they don't know about football, they don't care about football. Well, I don't really know why that's relevant, because Roman Abramovich knew F all about football when he bought us in 2003, and now we sit here nearly 20 years later and we're like the greatest owner we'll ever have. Do you know what I mean? So knowing football at the start of the business venture at Chelsea doesn't necessarily mean anything. If anything, I'd prefer someone that doesn't know anything about football than someone that thinks they do but really don't, because they will try to influence decisions for their opinions of football, which chances are not going to be great opinions of football, because, I mean, there could be, but I wouldn't want it, if I'm being totally honest, I wouldn't want any of us to make the decisions at Chelsea either, because we'd be way too us as fans, we'd be way too invested, so we'd sometimes be a bit rash, I presume. But someone that, I mean, Roman has sometimes done it when he basically he had to have Shevchenko. When he really wanted Ronaldinho, obviously it didn't happen in the end, but those kinds of things. Those are kind of the more bad things that about Roman, when he was like, I really want that guy, I'm going to get him, whether the man, even though Mourinho at the time said, I don't need Shevchenko. Stop giving me Shevchenko, essentially. But he stopped doing those things. And that's why essentially he became an even better owner over the years. Go on.
Can I make a very quick point? I know I've spoken a lot on this and I will shut up in a minute, but so a friend of my dad, someone he worked with for many, many years, is now the director of football at Man City. When Man City took over, then the Saudis took over Manchester City, they were, long story short, my dad's colleague was in Dubai for some sort of a conference. They were there and they were blown away by his football knowledge. They were blown away by absolutely everything he knows. I think he's a Wigan fan, if I remember correctly, but he knows his football, 100% knows his football. They did not. They hired him. They got him in as part of this takeover because he knows his football. So he can make decisions and help them make decisions. Obviously, he's dealt with large sums of money previously from his job. My dad worked in the oil industry, so he knows, we're talking big sums of money here. That kind of thing didn't faze him. He knows his football. He's known his fundamentals. He's never been a director of football before. And Manchester City got him in and said, we really trust you. We like who you are. We want to continue and take you on and now be the director of football at Manchester City. Don't need to know anything about football. They didn't. They've done incredibly well. They've built a project. Now they back it. They've learned over, what has it been, 15 years they've been owners of Man City, something like that?
Not sure if it's that long, but something along those lines, yeah.
I think it was 2008, 2009, something like that. So we're talking over 10 years anyway.
Yeah.
They've built a project for 10 years and, I mean, they've done absolutely incredible with it. You don't need to know anything in terms of football. You just have to have the right people that you trust. I think Petr Cech is that person. I really do. So I think whoever comes in, I think Petr Cech's going to be able to give them advice and guidance and stuff like that. That's one of the main people I want to see in terms of ownership. I want to see Petr Cech stay at the club because he knows it inside out. He knows his football. He's a very intelligent guy. He knows his business. He understands that kind of thing. So I wouldn't be too fussed about people not knowing football. I mean, Miami Dolphins owner, very quickly, I'm pretty sure we'll come on to in a moment, is a guy called Stephen Ross. He knows everything there is to know about football, or American football, but he sits in New York every single week. On game days, he comes down to Miami and then he buggers off back to New York every single day, never in the building, doesn't have a fucking clue what goes on. He's crap. Doesn't make a single bit.
And like PA put in a comment here, let's just get someone passionate about winning in sport, in business, and all things. Because exactly the example that Ian just gave, like I said, the owner doesn't need to know about football. They just need to know who to hire that knows about football. If that's Cech, great. If that's somebody else, who am I to judge? Depends on who it is. And also, I mean, it is this Swiss guy that I'm not necessarily a big fan of, not because of him as a person. He's just a bit old for me personally. But I'm not a big fan of the idea of like 3 different ones, and then we all have like stakes here, and then we have disagreements between the 3 owners, like what gets done, who gets signed. I can't be bothered with any of that crap. Just get someone. And Charlie, I'll take it to you. Obviously, Pice isn't here today, but we're all probably aware that Pice is like always a bit critical of good old Marina. I replied to him on Twitter the other day where I'm like, the day will come. It might be sooner rather than later if she doesn't stick around, but the day will come when he does realize that it's not all Marina's fault. Now, the report has been that this, Swiss alongside the American consortium have actually approached Marina about staying, and apparently it's a dilemma that she faces. Does she stay even without Roman or not? Like I gave the example, I think on your channel as well as on my channel, where it's about, I think it would just be down to her because Roman isn't exactly going to do much business at the moment because where on the planet is he going to do that? The fact that he's donated to the Ukrainians means Putin won't be having him in Russia. Sure, in Israel, but is that really a big enough market for someone like Roman Abramovich to start doing something massive there? So where exactly would Marina work with Roman? That's why I think if Marina fancies it, she will definitely be staying no matter who the new owner is because she was just crowned, awarded, whatever, best sporting director in the world. Any new owner would be silly not to keep her aboard. Would you like to see her stay, Charlie?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think, as you said, you've got to be careful what you wish for. It's very easy to be critical of certain individuals in the club when, as a fan, you don't see deals being offered to players that you think deserve them, or you don't see players being targeted or bids being put in for players that you think the club should be going for. It's very easy to just blame an individual. But actually, if you sit back and look at it, she's probably not responsible for a lot of the things that people have gripes with her about. And as you say, if she does decide to move on, which I personally feel she will, as we spoke about earlier in the week, mate, she's been associated with Roman for a long, long time now, early 90s. The reason she was at Chelsea is because of Roman in the first place. So, I mean, they're very loyal to each other. I don't know no one really knows what Roman's business ventures are, what he might look to do next, but I'm sure he could find a role for Marina in some of it. If she wanted to move on, I'd be more than happy for her to stick about. There's a reason why she's just been voted best sporting director, won that award because she's good at what she does. And at the end of the day, there's always going to be sections of the fan base that think that someone's not good enough. But as you say, you just got to be careful because actually you'll realise that when she does move on and someone else comes in that could have potential to be as good, but on the flip side may not be as good. You'll realise that actually we have got something pretty good in place. And with Cech and Marina running the football side of operations at the moment, I think new owners that come in would be very unwise to try and remove them because you don't want to come. I know you want to come in and you want to, put your mark on things. So I think it's also important not to rip out the fundamentals of the club that have served it so well over the years. And she's been a big part of that. So I think it would be a mistake to get rid of her. Will she stay? I don't think so. I could maybe see her staying short term, potentially. I don't know how long this takeover is going to take, but if they take over before the season's out, which you would imagine, I could see her staying to the end of the season and then allow the summer for the new ownership to bring in who they wanted to bring in. But yeah, I personally would love her to stick about, but ultimately, if she decides to move on, then you can't really blame her.
No, for sure. But I maybe slightly naive and maybe slightly dreamy hope is almost like, when like a father passes like a company onto his son and it's like, it's still kind of an extension of the founder in this analogy, the father, right? If Marina stays, it's almost in a bit like Roman still making sure everything's like all right here. Do you know what I mean? Again, might be super naive, might be like a dreamy way of looking at it. But if it were to happen and she sticks around, it would feel like that a little bit. Part of the reason why I'd also like just be in favor of it. Also, but also because she's very good at what she does. One last topic that we'll discuss before I do my little Manscaped read, ladies and gentlemen. Click the link in the description. Thomas Tuchel did announce today, which, at least something positive in that sea of negativity that we've had to deal with, whether it's the referees in the cup final, whether it's just every piece of media, whether it's the BBC or Sky Sports, loads of footballers that have been heading balls for 25 years thinking they have the IQ levels to talk about things, which they really don't, especially when they're big fans, former managers, and basically representatives of a club which is owned by a state that is currently leading a war, which is way, way worse than anything Roman Abramovich has ever done ever. But sure, Alan Shearer, you go waffle. But Thomas Tuchel did say in the press conference today, regardless of who the new owner is, regardless of who the new owner may be, he's sticking around. And that's great news, is it not, Clutch?
Yeah, couldn't press the button. But yeah, I think he's probably one of the most important parts about this. Whoever comes in needs to understand the importance of Thomas Tuchel now. Part of me says that, like, we really need to build off this. And I think the new owner will. But also, I don't think anybody would fire him. And he just won the Champions League. He's got a team that he pretty much knows. He's been with for about a year and a half now. So for me, he's probably the most important equation. He's the one who I want to see stay. The stability of a manager is something that's been not so in our favor over the last 5-10 years. So every other season we seem to get rid of one and then give another one. So I think giving him a long-term project is the best for this club and how we're going to actually start seeing success like the Peps or the Klopps have. They were given a project and they were given backing for that project. I think we should be doing that with Tuchel.
I do agree. Ian, similar thoughts? Just happy that at least, there's no worries that Tuchel is like, now that we have a new owner, I'm off. It's at least some sort of stability that we have, even if it's just the manager.
Yeah, I love Thomas Tuchel. I think he's wicked. And I think that people realise when he left Paris Saint-Germain, came to Chelsea, instantly won the Champions League. I think people realise how good of a coach he is. I think whoever comes in is going to be stupid to get rid of him. So the fact that he said he's staying around gives the long-term future of Chelsea a lot of hope, because when you look at Chelsea down the last 20 years, all the best teams we've had in terms of league-winning teams and Champions League-winning teams and whatever, have all been defensively sound, and Thomas Tuchel has made sure that Chelsea are defensively sound. And I think Clutch will know the phrase in terms of American sports. It's always defense wins championships and all that sort of stuff. And I think people are actually realising that. And I think Thomas Tuchel sticking around is a really good thing to have. And maybe it changes in so many months' time or a year's time or a couple of years' time or whatever. But the fact that Thomas Tuchel said he's committed, for me, means a lot.
No, I agree. Charlie, similar thoughts on that?
Yeah, 100%. And I think one thing the new ownership might bring is that opportunity for managers to actually be here long term, to be here 5-6 years. So I think now, I don't think there's any surprise that, yes, the hiring and firing model that Roman has employed during his time at the club has been phenomenally successful. No denying it. But I don't think there's any secret that the fact that we haven't challenged for a Premier League title for a number of years now. And I do think that's because we keep switching manager so often, which is why I think we've struggled so much domestically. In terms of winning trophies, I think, I don't want to say it's easy to do, but it's not. But with the quality of squad we have and the quality of players available and the world-class caliber of manager that we have brought in on a consistent basis, you are going to pick up cups quite often along the way. But to actually sustainably perform week in, week out, pretty much over 38 games, you need someone to be at the club for 5-6 years, because, constantly swapping every 2 to 3 years, you've got a manager comes in, likes certain players, plays a certain way, brings a certain player in. Suddenly, he's not there. Okay, manager doesn't like players he's brought in, and you're left struggling to shift players. So if we can have someone at the club like Thomas Tuchel, preferably for a longer period of time. When was the last time? I can't remember the last time a Chelsea manager stayed more than 3 years. It doesn't happen. So
no, I don't think it has happened since Roman. The closest
I don't think it's happened either. Yeah, I don't think it's happened. Yeah, so this is a great opportunity to reset that hiring and firing culture.
Jose's first stint was just over 3 seasons.
Yeah. But he didn't last the 4th season, did he? He did 3 and then, so and 3 seasons.
Gone by September, so it didn't even last remotely long into the next season.
It's a great opportunity for the new owners to actually, we've got someone here that has got the tools, he's got the capability, he's got the quality as a coach, and he's got, he's the sort of person you want as the figurehead of your club. He speaks really well, he's so honest. He's just an all-round great guy. So hopefully, he's got the opportunity to be here for 5-6 years and longer than normal. And I think that will help us challenge domestically. So as I said, there's no coincidence that the likes of Pep and Klopp, who have been there 5-6 years, etc., That's why they're doing so. That's why those clubs are doing really well domestically, I feel.
I completely agree. It's not, for me, it's not that directly because of the sacking managers in itself. It's more what you also mentioned, that bringing players in. That's why we sit on deadwood players. That's why we are somewhat limited in which new players we can sign, because we have so many other players to sit around and we need to get rid of. And also, people worry, a new owner might not spend as much as Roman. Keeping a manager and therefore not always bringing in a new rota of players every 2 years is also much cheaper. So now that we, at least in our current opinion, have a manager who we trust in being the guy to stick around for longer. I mean, no criticism. I love Frank Lampard, but did I necessarily think Frank Lampard was the guy that, give him enough time and everything's great? I'm not sure. I think he needs a bit more managerial experience to get to that point, and then I think he can be that. Obviously, time will tell a little bit to some extent too. But I think after we had him after 1 year of being a manager. No manager in the world is great after 1 year. Well, I say that Pep was, but Pep came from the quite literally academy of Barcelona, so it's a little bit different. But like you said, if we just keep the same manager for a little while, it's much easier to get rid of the players he doesn't like and only sign players he does like, and we don't sit there with a bunch of players who who the current manager doesn't actually want, and that makes things cheaper and, like you say, easier to compete domestically. Before we get into the actual preview part of things, let me quickly tell you about the sponsor of this month, which is Manscaped, as you might be aware from over the last couple of streams, if you have watched those. Like I said, Manscaped, we're sponsored by them, and they're the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. They offer precision-engineered tools for your family jewels, and they recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package 4.0. And I actually have an exclusive offer just for you, 20% off and free worldwide shipping with my code LAUSCFC at manscaped.com. But let me tell you about the Performance Package 4.0, just a little bit. We've got a fair few things in there. First off, the Lawnmower 4.0. This trimmer is the future of grooming, and dare I say, the greatest ball trimmer ever. How many ball trimmers have I tried? But it's the greatest I've tried, that's for sure. I cannot speak for other things, but it's certainly the greatest I've tried, I can only be honest with you. And, they sent me the package, and I was just very happy with it. The whole, cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents, and actually does help, I will say. The advanced skin-safe technology, I'm not sure how advanced it is, but it works. That's all I can tell you. It's waterproof, works in the shower, has a little light at the top to make it, easier for a precise shave, because you can actually see. Not everybody has great lighting in a bathroom, but that's not it. They also have the Weed Whacker nose and ear hair trimmer. Again, I keep saying this, but there's nothing to be ashamed about. If you're just a hairy person and you have just some hair to get rid of in your nose, why not? Especially tall people. The women are shorter than you. They will see up your nose. You need to get rid of things. But we're still not done. They've got the Crop Preserver Ball Children and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner. Still, to be honest, they sent me all the briefs, and I have the product. Still don't really know why it's called the Ball Toner. But what I can tell you, it smells brilliant. And a ball deodorant, when you think about it, why hasn't that been a thing for much longer? You put deodorant on the armpits. Why wouldn't you put deodorant on your balls? Makes no sense. And to top things off, Manscaped even threw in 2 free gifts in the Performance Package 4.0. The Manscaped boxes and the Shed travel bag. Bring your comfort and boxes to another level. It's time to take care of yourself and get 20% off and free shipping, worldwide shipping, with the code LAUSCFC at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com, and use the code LAUSCFC at checkout. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. That's enough from the sponsor. Let's get back to talking about Chelsea, and let's get back to actually finally talking about tomorrow's game, which is Burnley against Chelsea. Now, Burnley have actually kind of resurged their season. I mean, they hadn't won a game in God knows how long. All of a sudden, they go to Brighton, smack them 3-0. They win their next game. They get a draw at Palace. Can't remember if they won or lost their last game, if I'm being perfectly honest, but they finally got on a good run of form. Is that annoying for us? Yes. But I would also say Burnley's one of those places where everyone's, Burnley away, such a tough game. Can someone tell me the last time we actually struggled away at Burnley? I swear we always do quite well there. Or am I missing something? And what Top Bin saying, you almost believe me, Laurenz. No, but genuinely, I'm not lying. Manscaped is brilliant. I understand why you think I could be lying. I'm just reading out an ad read. I get it. But why would I do that? I don't want to mug you off, ladies and gentlemen. So please do just check that out. Anyway. I mean, either of you three, did we have a bad result against Burnley as of late? I feel like usually when we go to Burnley, like Pulisic scored his hat-trick there. So last season we won there. Did we? I think we did. It's why usually this goes much better than we always fear it will.
Away at Burnley?
Yeah, away at Burnley.
No, I don't remember. Earlier this season, we dropped points against Burnley, but not away.
Yeah, but that was more down to us being stupid in front of goal rather than us struggling with Burnley itself.
Yes.
But obviously, everyone can see that how they won. But still, they've had a bit of a resurgence in form. Does that worry you, Charlie?
I don't know. I guess like I don't know. You can look at it, but two ways, can't you? Resurgence in form, yeah, okay, but still, they're where they are in a table for a reason because consistently they're basically shit at the moment. Now, I know you don't go into that with that mindset thinking, it's going to be an easy win, but they are where they are because they're not particularly good, and those are the facts. But having said that, when you're fighting for your life at this stage of the season to stay in a division, it's going to be a tough game because they've got their Premier League survival to play for. And, that there's a lot riding on that. Whereas for us, we're...
Flip's sake, Musa. Sorry, Charlie. That was incredibly rude of me.
No, it's all good, mate. It's all good. But yeah, no, it is a tough place to go, and we don't score a lot of goals as it is at the moment. I know we scored 3 against Luton, but generally speaking, in the Premier League, we haven't scored an awful lot of goals in our games. There have been some exceptions to that, but yeah, I don't feel worried about it. But it's going to be a tough game. It's pretty freezing up there. It's going to be physical. They like to get into a physical battle. Obviously, Weghorst up front, the big tall geezer they got from the Bundesliga in January. Decent player. He'll be a handful. They like to rough you up at set plays, etc. It's going to be a physical battle, and it will be a tough game. I do expect us to win, but when you're playing a team that have got they're fighting for survival at the bottom, suddenly their survival instinct kicks in, and they tend to sometimes find something that hasn't really been there for the majority of the season, and particularly when the big clubs come to town as well. There's that added incentive as well. We've seen them beat Spurs recently. I know Spurs, big club, perhaps not, but a team of a higher quality come. They've done well. So yeah, it'll be tough, but I fully expect us to win and to have the quality to sort of shine through against their kind of roughing us up tactics. But we're going to have to be on our game.
For sure. And I mean, you said it there. Even if beating the big teams doesn't happen that often, with the exception of Spurs recently, but Spurs a big team, debatable. But still, they do, even when they lost to Liverpool, it was just 1-0, but they got a 1-0 draw against United, 0-0 against Arsenal. They obviously drew with us. They drew with West Ham. They do have this tendency to get, it's difficult to beat them. And they've also found the only Bundesliga player that come into the Premier League doesn't look like absolute dog shit. So, that helps them. Arguably, I still don't understand how much did they get for Chris Wood? 25 million. And they paid 12 million for Weghorst. I swear, in my opinion, they signed a better player for half the price. So fair play to them. But to take it to you, Ian, with all of that said about Burnley, the way they play, that got written back 3 all over it just to make sure we have an extra centre-back to deal with their, menace of a striker?
Well, I just looked up on the old records the last time we lost at Burnley, which was 1983 in the second division. So, yeah, we haven't... We drew up there.
Draws, they feel like losses to us as well. So
we have drawn up there. I think it was 2017. I looked, but yeah, the last time we lost up there was 1983. It'll be a back three. And I think the main thing about this game is that it is going to be, Burnley are a defensive side, especially against the big sides. If you look at the goals that they've scored in the last couple of weeks, a lot of them have been not necessarily on the break, but when there's a little bit more space in the game. So it wouldn't surprise me if they do, they'll set up defensively, they'll move the ball up the pitch when they can, and they'll try and go forward with, effectiveness, basically. That's the way they're going to try and approach this game. The back three, I think, will make a lot of sense. I think one of them, of course, will be Rudiger. the other ones in terms of who's fit, I'm not too sure about that one just yet. But in terms of Weghorst, he is a very good player. He has got his massive positives, but he also does have his downsides as well. He's not necessarily the most mobile player in the world. His height is incredible, basically, and he's got a finish on him. So if you don't necessarily allow him space or time, stuff like that, which I think is where Rudiger's really going to come into his own. I think Thiago Silva, I assume he'll play. I know he's trained and whatever. He'll probably have the positioning-wise against Weghorst because the mobility is a little bit of an issue. He will struggle in the air because I think Thiago Silva is only about 6 foot or so. So again, 6 inches on him. And as people know, 6 inches is a lot. It is. There's definitely real upsides. Yeah, there is a lot of upsides in terms of playing against Weghorst. There is also one massive downside. The main thing about this, every time, regardless if we're playing home or away, they are a very defensive side. Weghorst will also help that in terms of defending corners and set pieces and things like that. So, it's going to be a little bit of a difficult one to predict in terms of exactly how the game's going to go from a Burnley point of view. But I'm pretty sure it'll be a back three. It'll be a back three for us. We'll be on the front foot, and it's just a case of whether we can break them down, as it has been the case with so many teams throughout the season. And again, they came to us, nicked a 1-1, massive result for them. That is.
I agree. And, I'm just going to blatantly nick it, Clutch, but as Clutch just put it in a private chat, Thiago Silva showing that size doesn't matter. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do agree. Probably most likely a back three. And also, if you judge by our recent performances, I know if you go back to like Tottenham, but it's only against Tottenham that we were particularly good in the back four. But in a cup final, aside from finishing, we were brilliant in the back three. We were very good against Lille in the back three. Sure, Luton, bit different, but we also played a back three and scored 3 goals for the first time since Boxing Day. Again, it's only Luton, but Luton are above the table, like ahead of Middlesbrough in the table, and Middlesbrough knocked out Manchester United and Tottenham. So you don't just randomly beat higher up championship sides. You don't. And we scored 3 goals. So for once, we actually did something reasonably good. Let's get into talking about the 11 we'd like to see, because otherwise we'll be here for bloody ever if I don't get into that. I'm not quite sure what Ian's giggling about. Maybe that's
no, I'm just in the chat. People think that I'm a Manscaped mascot.
Like a Manscaped mascot. Hey, boys, if you're not careful, Manscaped also sent me a T-shirt. If you're not careful, I'll turn up in the T-shirt next stream.
Oh, yes. We need a T-shirt. We need it.
But yeah, I put it for the time being in a back three. Clutch, I know you're obviously usually an heavy advocate of the back four. Does the way Burnley play make you feel maybe the back three does make more sense? And also the fact that our recent performances in the back three have been good also going forward?
I'm in 2 frames of mind. One of them is I don't think we have enough center backs fully fit to actually use it. I mean, I don't think Sarr's going to be thrown back out there again, considering he just had a really poor... So that's only... I mean, Christensen's barely back. Chalobah's barely back. Who knows if they're going to play off the start. That just leaves Silva and Rudiger. And then are you going to throw Ruben back there again to play in the middle instead of Silva? No. I don't think
Ruben's not going to be played there in the Premier League. I'm pretty sure of that.
Yeah, no, he will not. So, I mean, and Aspie's out, so that's lacking center backs to actually play this formation. But that also comes back to the, is Sarr going to get thrown back out there, considering he's going to be the only left back unless Thomas Tuchel does a madness and says, I'm going to put Alonso out there? I mean, I think for me...
If I can interrupt you a little bit, I'm pretty sure Chalobah is fine to play now. Because Tuchel described both his and Thiago's injuries as minor injuries, and they're both back. So if we're expecting Thiago to play, I think we can expect Chalobah to play.
I didn't know Thiago got injured. I thought he was just rested.
No, apparently it was a small niggle as such.
Interesting. Well, yeah, maybe then. But, I mean, again, I think attacking is going to be better. I think we're going to need more players to break down a low block. I don't think Reece James is going to be able to play. Well, I guess that makes it more...
I think I'm also not sure if Reece could or will start, but I feel like there's a chance. I mean, he's played an hour and he's played 20 minutes. Like, how many more
Yeah,
sub
but
appearances do you
if
need?
he has to start, he has to, because I can't go through Pulisic or Callenbig over there. I can't do it. They're so bad. They're so bad over there. They need to be. One of them needs to be in the front three. Yeah, we'll just stick to a back three. Defensive security. Why not?
Fair dues. That's it's weird because I don't even view the back three as just giving us more defensive security, if I'm being perfectly honest. But we just have more players in form that don't play in attack. it's more that. So then I put more out of form players in an attack. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's essentially just Havertz and to be honest, no, it's just Havertz that's in good form of any of our attackers. Like, Pulisic wasn't shockingly awful in the cup final, but he's had a bad miss that, alongside Mount's misses, partly cost us the title, right? So it's not like unbelievable form either. He came on against Luton, was okay, but nothing outrageous. So I would say Havertz is probably the only in-form forward we have. But then again, how many in-form wing-backs do we have? We don't really know how good or bad Reece James is. Looked good against Luton. Didn't look so great against Liverpool, in my opinion, but got better the longer he was on the pitch for. And then on the other side, it's Alonso, who's never in good form, really. So I do see that. But Charlie, back three for you?
Yeah, 100%, mate. Back three for me. Offers that defensive solidity we've been on about. I think it will help having an extra defender, for those set pieces and things like that as well. And as you said, mate, more of our defenders are in form, so it makes sense maybe to play more of them. But it's the tried and tested. And as you said, other than when we played Spurs, the back four, as much as we do like it, and I am a fan of it, like, hasn't actually looked that great against teams other than Spurs. I mean, last time out we used it against Palace and we were dog shit. So we played a back four of 4 centre backs. So for me, the back three, I think
back four would probably be better if it wasn't 4 centre backs. To be fair,
it would be. So, but yeah, no, for me, mate, back three, I think is what we get our best results with. People moan about the back three, but at the end of the day, we played in that cup final at Wembley last weekend. We were outstanding, and it was a back three. Champions League final was a back three. I understand, I don't think we've quite yet got the right complement of players in the squad to fully roll out the back four. Pre-season, summer recruitment, I think the back four could be a very viable option to roll with as our primary formation next season. But for now, I think it's the back three more times than not.
I do agree in a way. Also, like the way Tuchel spoke after the cup final, it feels like we're kind of back now and everything seems to be clicking a bit better now. While playing a back three in those previous 2 games makes me think he's always more likely to pick that for the time being. Obviously, if Clutch hinted on, say, Chalobah isn't fit and Christensen isn't fit, then we might be forced to play a back four and play Sarr left back and play Reece James normal right back, maybe. But if we have 3 proper centre backs available, I think that's what we're going to go with. Ian, actually, before I go to Ian in terms of who would fill his back three plus goalkeeper, please do subscribe, ladies and gentlemen. We're on the road to 15,000 subscribers. Hit the big red subscribe button down below and smash the like button. Back three is boring to watch, Scary. I'll ask you, watch the cup final back and watch the Crystal Palace game back and tell me which game was more boring. So that's really all I have to add about this. But Ian, back three plus goalkeeper, pretty obvious, all 3 of them. The centre backs mostly because of fitness, but really they're all quite obvious, aren't they?
Yeah, Rudiger, Silva. If Chalobah's fit, I'd probably play him. If Christensen's fit, I'd probably play him. Yeah, I just think it's a bit obvious. If Christensen is there, I think he plays. If he's not, I think it's Chalobah.
Yeah, I do agree. Like, Christensen was interestingly in training, but not mentioned today by Thomas Tuchel, so I'm not 1,000,000% sure about it. The only thing we do know is Azpilicueta it's a bit close for him as far as I'm aware, so he'll probably be back for Norwich next Thursday. But we'll have to wait and see, I guess. Charlie, you in agreement with that back three then? Presumably, if Christensen's fit, it's probably going to be Christensen. But then again, because of the reports that Christensen has agreed to join Barcelona now, have we come to the point where when Chalobah and Christensen are fit, because we know, not officially, but we kind of know, that Christensen's leaving, is it now not the time that we just play Chalobah over him? Because there's not that much difference between them. Like, Christensen is certainly a bit more experienced and a bit better, but Chalobah will never get there if we don't play him, will we?
Yeah, no, that's a fair point. I mean, obviously, 100% Rudiger and Silva are definitely going to play. Tuchel did obviously saying, no fresh injury concerns other than Azpilicueta will be missing. So that leads you to believe that Christensen and Chalobah are available to play. Otherwise, he would have said that they weren't. So for me, a toss-up between the two. I'm not really that fussed who plays out of the two. As you said, I don't think there's a lot between it. I personally would go Chalobah just because I actually, because I like him. I don't dislike Christensen. I like him. I think he's come on a lot this season. Not played a lot of football. Fantastic in the cup final, considering he hadn't played for 6 to 8 weeks. So I'd go with him. But if it ends up being Christensen, I'm not too fussed either.
I do agree. Clutch then. Obviously, Mendy, Rudiger, Silva. I think we're all in agreement on. But let's just for a second presume Chalobah and Christensen are fit. Now that we know this about Christensen, is this enough reason to play Chalobah over him, or would you still always pick the best player, which arguably is still by a tad Christensen over Chalobah? I know Lewis would rip my head off that I said a tad, but Clutch.
Sorry, say that again.
Okay. I said if Chalobah and Christensen are both fit, have we gotten to the point where because Christensen is leaving in the summer, we now play Chalobah over him, or would you still always pick the guy that's still better?
I think it would depend against the team. If it's one of the top teams, City or Liverpool, I'd probably pick Christensen. But for like a game like Burnley,
either of those anymore, other than potentially the Champions League or FA Cup.
Well, unless it's a big game, I'd start Chalobah. Like I really like Chalobah, and I thought he really grew into the game. He had some tough defending against Mane and Diaz, but I think he grew into the game.
Forward in the world. I mean, like we've seen our defenders struggle against much less than the Liverpool attack.
Yeah, so I mean, I'd probably go with Chalobah for this one.
That is fair. Let's move on to the wing backs then. Presumably, Reece James starts at right back because at right wing back. I hope, because otherwise I might be more inclined to play the back four if I'm honest. But then again, I don't know. Charlie, presuming that Reece James is fit to start, it's Reece James on the one side, I'd say. But then what about the other side? I mean, Kennedy finally got his first run out. Wasn't amazing against it, but it wasn't bad. Is that enough to potentially displace Alonso? But I will also say last time Alonso played in the cup final was probably one of Marcos Alonso's best performances in the last, 3 years?
Oh, mate, Kennedy is not playing. No chance. Absolutely no chance. Unless there's injuries, Kennedy's there's no way he plays in this game. Reece James, I believe, will start. Tuchel saying that, he's good to go was his quote. He come through 70 minutes in the cup and then about half hour or so against Luton, and he seems all right. So if James is fine, he definitely plays. And as you say, Marcos Alonso rested or slight knock in the week, whatever it was. He's had his critics this season, but credit where it's due, is fantastic in that cup final, done really well, and there's no reason why, for me, he wouldn't be playing there.
There you go. And you saying as much as that might be your personal preference, Aspie is unavailable. So it might be your preference to play Aspie at left wing back, but it's not going to happen. Clutch, I'll ask you the same question. Obviously, presumably Reece James, after what Thomas Tuchel said. And then Alonso on the other side, we were both sat here after the cup final and said Alonso was actually pretty decent.
Yeah, he had to give him his due. He wasn't terrible. When he tracked back, he did have the one time where almost caught out, but that's going to happen with Alonso and his speed, and he got a full rest or whatever it was. So I do think he's going to be one of the guys to start. I think he kind of deserves it. On the right-hand side, obviously, it's James, because if it's not James, then I don't want to see any part of a back three. James is like him and Chilwell are the only reason it makes this work. Otherwise, it just doesn't work. So yeah, that'd be James on the right, Alonso on the left for me. Although
you say that, we don't even have enough centre-backs available to play. I guess we do the same number as we had against Palace, but against Palace was certainly much worse than anything else. I'd rather Callum as wing-back than I'd do a back four centre-backs again, if I'm being perfectly honest.
Callum's not going to be wing-back ever again, I guarantee you that. If it'll end up being Pulisic, and I don't ever want to see that again.
Nah, I think there will be a couple of times where Callum will still play wing back, depending on it, if required by injuries, not by choice. Ian, just quickly, do you agree on those two in terms of wing backs?
I'd actually love to see Kennedy play, I must be honest, but I am also very aware that we play Norwich on Thursday night, which is where I think we might see Kennedy. I think that the fact that Alonso was rested against Luton, I've seen a fair bit of Luton. A friend of mine supports them, so I knew they were always going to be quite fast and energetic. Same thing I think Thomas Tuchel would have thought as well. I think it'll be Alonso. I think he would have played in midweek if he was needed, because, let's be honest, we didn't have anyone really available. But I do think Kennedy is going to be a shout going forward. Not in every game. Again, Alonso played so well in the cup final, so you've got to give credit where it's due. But I do feel there will be games where you do see Kennedy play as a left wing back, because although he wasn't brilliant against Luton, he definitely wasn't bad either.
Yeah, fair. Let's get to the midfield too, where you could argue it's simple, but you could also make a case for a couple of different players. Now, Loftus-Cheek got man of the match in the FA Cup game against Luton. Obviously, Chelsea fans voted for Timo Werner because they apparently only care about goals and assists, and everything else is totally irrelevant. And even Thomas Tuchel was asked about it and said, he did well at centre-back, struggled a bit at the beginning, but then got better and better. But then you saw that his best position is still in midfield. Was that enough to start? Maybe not. Saul, in my opinion, Ruben and Saul, in my opinion, were the two best players we had against Luton. So is that a case we made for him? Maybe not, because of the three other options we have in Kante, Kovacic, and Jorginho. Now, the only one that for me personally, sure on that should and must start is Mateo Kovacic. I think Jorginho has had a fair few bit of rest recently, although I will also say he didn't look great against Luton either. But maybe it's now time to rest Kante again, because Kante's played quite a bit recently. Obviously, he was rested against Luton. I get that. But maybe now for one of the more proper games, it's time for a rest for Kante and we go back to Georgie and cover. I know against Burnley, you'd think, no, you need a more physical. I get that. But I think against Burnley, it's most important to have the two with a connection, because the way Burnley play, we need to beat them with passing, because we're not going to beat them with strength, even Kante. So by that logic, I would probably pick those two, even though I'd love, obviously, if randomly Ruben was thrown in, because he's a mix of passing and strong, although he keeps the ball for too long. But still, not like Kante. I'll switch around. I'll go the opposite direction this time. Ian, let me have you first. Midfield two for you?
Yeah, Kovacic has to play 100%. He's one of the best players we've got. Jorginho is more likely to find the killer pass. That's another thing to really think about as well. And again, Burnley will defend. Kante has got his, deficiencies as a player, which is fair enough. And forward passing is definitely one of those, and finding that crucial ball. Kovacic will drive us up the pitch if needs be anyway, as will Reece James, as will, I'm pretty sure, who we'll talk about in a moment in terms of the front three. So I do think it will be Kovacic and Jorginho. Because you are going to need that crucial pass, I think, and Jorginho is more likely to give it to you than Kante or Saul Niguez or Ruben Loftus-Cheek or any of them.
Well, you say that. When I look at Ruben's pass to Timo the other day, I haven't seen Jorginho play a pass like that in a hot minute.
Yeah, no, 100%.
Any player other than Kovacic play a ball like that at Chelsea in a while.
I do have to say, I was really, really impressed by Loftus-Cheek with certain things he did. I'll be honest with you. I actually thought that many years ago, I don't know if you guys will remember or not, but I was at an FA Cup game where Loftus-Cheek, I'm pretty sure, made his debut for Chelsea. Or if it wasn't his debut, it was one of his very early games. And he played in defensive midfield as the two sitting in a 4-2-3-1. And I genuinely do believe that could be his best position. He's not perfect at it at all, but I do think he's got every single quality he potentially needs to be a top central defensive midfielder. I just don't think we're going to see it. I think he wants to go forward a little bit too much. If he is going to go forward in any game as a centre midfielder, this is probably going to be it.
It was very interesting as well, because Thomas Tuchel spoke about Ruben as well, and he said, in his opinion, the single six, we don't play a single six today by this or tomorrow by this formation, but the single six he sees as his best position. It just shows how interesting and how different managers are. Conte tried to make him a striker, and now Thomas Tuchel thinks his best position is a single six. It's very difficult to get further apart from each other, and he played centre back. Do you know what I mean? So, but I do hear it. Probably Kova and Jorginho does make a lot of sense. like I said, I was going to go the other way around. So I'll ask you, Clutch, what's your midfield? Is it Kova and Jorginho as well, or would you go with something different?
In the back three, it'd be Kova and Jorginho. I don't want to come back tomorrow and be like, why did we play Conte in this kind of game? He offers nothing going forward. Because every time we play a game like this is what ends up happening. We start Conte, and he either gets injured or he gets, or he's just terrible offensively. Because, I mean, we're going to have the ball, possession. It's going to be a possession-based game. That's what Jorginho's good at. Let Jorginho do it. I don't want to see Conte for this type of game. Unfortunately, for a while, we probably won't see Conte until the second little game. But, I mean, hey, prolonged rest is a good thing. I don't want to go. He's more of a breakup passes kind of a player, and I don't really want to use Conte unless we have to. So I'd go Jorginho, Kovacic.
Fair. Although if we did predicted 11, I'd probably put Kova and Kante, if I'm being perfectly honest with you. But we're not doing predicted 11. We're giving our thoughts. So Charlie, your thoughts? Would you put Kante in there? And if it's not Kova and Jorginho, but also not Kante, who would it be then, I guess?
It's definitely going to be Kovacic for obvious reasons. And then, I mean, it was one of those games that I don't think we personally really need Kante in this game. He's someone that we can bring off the bench to tighten things up if the game requires it. As we've seen before, you know, don't want to play him in games, particularly if we've got big Champions League games coming up, etc. He picks up an injury and then we miss him for a load of matches. So we don't like, if we can avoid that, then that would be ideal. It'd probably be Jorginho, but I do think I was really impressed with Ruben against Luton, and I'm a massive fan of his. You know, he just needs to do it on a more consistent basis. That's the frustrating thing, that, you know, you see glimpses of what he can do, and then he puts in a few average performances, finds himself out of team for a few weeks, and then all the momentum stops. So he needs to, you know, push on, because these matches coming up for the rest of the season could be fighting for his Chelsea future, like to be at the club next season. So I'd like to see him given another opportunity. If it was me, I mean, yeah, I'll probably go Kova Jorginho, but I do think Ruben has got an outside chance of actually starting this game if Kante is going to be on the bench.
And otherwise, just bring him on for you know?
Yeah.
Why not?
I do think Ruben actually could be ahead of Jorginho kind of in the pecking order at the moment in terms of the first choice is obviously Kovacic and Kante. But I think Ruben could be maybe just ahead of Jorginho at the moment. Jorginho's not been in great form recently. He's not played a lot of football either. So I think they're pretty level pegging at the moment, really. So I don't know. I think he's got a chance. But yeah, I suspect it'll be Jorginho and Kova.
Fair dues. Let's get to the front three then. Now I put in the title and on the thumbnail that Kai Havertz must start. And I firmly believe that. I know Lukaku scored in the last game, but that goal and one other reasonable shot that he had was kind of the only good things he did in that game again, in my opinion. So bring Lukaku on if we need it, you know, if we haven't found a way through before, bring him on, great. But I also think that playing Lukaku would be playing into Burnley's hands, because the way we use Lukaku, that's exactly what Burnley want. They have absolutely no problem with going toe-to-toe strength-wise with Lukaku. I mean, we all thought the Lukaku we're signing would be to be exactly that. But I mean, did you watch the Palace game? Even Anderson isn't even that good, got the better of Lukaku physically. So for that reason, how do you make physical, tall, immobile defenders sweat the most? Put a very mobile attacker in front of them, and that's Kai Havertz. So Kai Havertz is an absolute guarantee to start for me. Obviously, you boys can have your opinions. On the left wing, I would probably go back to playing Pulisic there, as much as he missed his sitter in the cup final. That just the chance he created for Mount, just the fact that he did that makes me want to start him, because we might need one of those passes to break Burnley down. Again, I would much prefer him on the left than on the right, where he spent most of his game against Liverpool until he was subbed off. The question is who starts on the right, because Mount, I mean, in Clutch's opinion, had a good game against Luton. In a lot of people's opinion, wasn't great against Luton. A lot of people, in my opinion, went way overboard for, you know, what they said about him after the cup game. But that's obviously those people that really dislike Mount. And they were waiting for months and months and months until he finally had a really bad game, and then they all came out of their little holes. Doesn't mean he was good. No, he wasn't. But, you know, you can say someone was shit without insulting them and wishing injury upon them. Like, calm down. Hakim Ziyech is back from injury. Obviously got injured in the build-up to the cup final. No, did he miss the Lille game already? No, he got subbed off against Lille. I remember now. Got subbed off against Lille with that Achilles injury. Was then said to be back in training, but then missed the cup final and also missed Luton. Is now back. So I presume he probably won't start straight away, being back. I presume he might start against Norwich in the week. So then the question remains, I guess, do we feel that with Callum? Do we feel that with Mason Mount? Or, I mean, I almost don't want to, it's difficult to bring it across my lips, but Timo Werner, I mean, he got a goal and assist, I guess. Kind of 2 assists. I mean, it wasn't because it was the defender that played it too sold, but still, which I only realized after our stream. But anyway, the goal was good. The assist was good. Everything else he did was a bit bad. But when I think back to our last game against Burnley, maybe that's what we need. Just a player that has 1 or 2 good moments rather than an average game overall. I don't think it should be Werner. I'm just putting it out there to see what you boys think. And I will start. I know, Clutch, you're going to go quite harsh against Werner, so I'm going to go with someone different first to see if maybe someone has a slightly more positive opinion towards that idea. Again, it's not me, but maybe someone does. Is that someone you, Charlie, or is Timo also no go for you for tomorrow?
Oh, do you know what? I've got to be honest. Certainly the last few weeks, he doesn't even come into my thinking when picking a Chelsea team to play. I know that sounds like a little bit offensive, but it's just like, for what he's just one of those players that's so frustrating because he'll do something good and then he'll automatically follow it up with something absolutely dreadful. And then look, Luton in the week was one of those weird games. He goes down as a goal and an assist, and you think, Timo's had a good game. I thought he was quite awful in most parts, to be perfectly honest, which sounds quite strange when if you just look at the stats, 2 assists and a goal, you think, he had a good game. That's why stats is so misleading and you can't just base people's performances off that. So has he got a chance? Yes, he's been more involved in recent weeks. Well, certainly this week, appearance off the bench in a cup final and then pretty good against Luton. I think he's got an opportunity. I think he'll feature in this game. Whether it's from the off, I think it's unlikely. Personally, for me, if Hakim Ziyech is fit to play, I'd start him on the right-hand side. I play Kai Havertz on the left. And the reason why I play Romelu Lukaku in this game, I know it might not be particularly popular, but I think Lukaku may well start this game just because I know it makes us a little bit less fluid at the top end of the pitch. But to have a physical presence up there against those Burnley centre-backs, and particularly from, it might help us defensively from set plays as well. And I think Lukaku's in half-decent form at the moment. I know it's it's not amazing and, we should expect more and we should. But from what the bar's been set from him, been very low, like in recent weeks, I think he has done a lot better. So for me, I'd personally go Lukaku as the 9 with Havertz left and Ziyech right. But if Lukaku wasn't to play, then I'd go Havertz, Pulisic and Ziyech. Or if Ziyech doesn't play, it'll be Mount.
You think Mount? Fair dues.
Yeah.
Fair dues. I mean, I see, like I said, I see why you say that for Lukaku. I just personally, not necessarily in form, but in terms of who we're playing, I think that's exactly what Burnley want. And I think we'll make it easier for them by putting Lukaku there because he's just like them, immobile and strong. He's good at that, but I feel like Burnley are also good at stopping that. That's their thing type thing. But, we'll have to wait and see what we go with tomorrow anyway. Ian, I'll ask you. Obviously, Charlie went for Mount. If it's not Ziyech, obviously, I think if Ziyech is fit, we'll probably all pick him. But let's presume he's not then. Who is your front 3?
I like this. I think that's probably the best way to play. I think I do like the idea of Havertz and Lukaku playing together, only for the reason because Lukaku will do all the stuff up front in terms of occupying the back 2 that Burnley will play in terms of centre-backs. But the interesting bit about it is if Lukaku is being marked by both of them and the movement that comes with Havertz drawing people away from him, that's maybe where you get the best out of Lukaku.
Do you think that in a front 3 as well, or would that only apply in a front 2?
I think that would apply in a front 3 as well. I think that, because again, Havertz isn't a natural wide player. He's never going to go that far outside. Alonso, in terms of this situation, is always going to give you the width down the left-hand side anyway. So Havertz is then going to be allowed to come inside, which would then probably help with Ziyech as well. He'd come inside and then Reece James offer the width. But you're going to have to remind me of the game. I'm pretty sure it was Aston Villa on Boxing Day, I think. Lukaku just got a flick on, which was one of the goals. Obviously, went on to win the game. But we did start from we were behind in that game, and we came from behind, and it kind of feels like this game's going to be very similar. Only for the reason because, again, they are going to be so defensive, as Villa were. Of course, they were defending a lead at the time. If you do have that little moment where Lukaku glances a ball on, or, just a one-touch finish and gets in, that's the kind of thing that really could go in our favour. I think it will probably end up being like this. I do think it will be this front three. But I can understand why there will be people that are saying about playing Lukaku. I just think that if you do play Lukaku, you have to play Kai Havertz as well. Only problem then, of course, is Havertz would probably naturally go on the left-hand side, which means no Pulisic. But Werner is a no for me. I think that he needs space in the game, and everything that he did that was really good against Luton. I mean, his goal that he got, he had a little bit of space and made the most of it. The ball across, it was a great pass that he found a little bit of space. Is that partly due to the fact that Luton were tiring? I think possibly yes. But starting him from the get-go in this game just doesn't really make sense to me. So I would say Mount. I would say Mount is probably a must unless Ziyech is fit. Then Ziyech should start for me. But Pulisic and Havertz have to be on the team sheet for me.
Fair dues. For me, to support Lukaku, I completely agree with this idea of Havertz on the left. Problem is, I think you drastically limit Havertz, and I don't think with the form he's been in, I don't think that's fair on him. If I'm being perfectly honest, let him shine when he's shining. Any shouts for Callum on the right, and then sometimes you switch Pulisic and Callum round, and instead of Mount, potentially anyone interested in that at all in terms of, I don't know, give us more pace. But do we need pace against Burnley, who are just going to park the bus? Probably not. Yeah,
I think that's the major argument. I don't think that pace is going to be an absolutely ginormous factor in this game. The only place I would say it being a factor is at the back.
Yeah, I do probably agree. And then finish it off with you, Clutch. What do you think? What's your front three? Is it this? Presuming that Ziyech can't start?
Yeah, if Ziyech can't start, this is my front three. TT's a smart man, and he very well understands we look much better when Lukaku's not on the field. Even against Luton, we're far better. We look far better as a team when he's not on the field. We didn't look great against Luton, let's be honest. I mean, we needed a late goal to win that game against Luton. Mm-hmm. So you just have to put Havertz up top. I think the Lukaku experiment's done from my perspective. I mean, I don't think we should play him unless we need to rest or he comes off the bench. I don't think he should start. Havertz should be our starter for the rest of the season, unless the game calls for it. But rarely is the game going to call for it. We look more fluid with Havertz up top. But also that means we're going to need somebody who's going to break down low blocks. That has to be Pulisic or Callum. I'm not going to go towards Callum right now because Callum's just not taking on his defender for whatever reason. He's just not going for one-on-ones. Pulisic seems to be trying a little bit more of that lately. The reason why I want a back four is it allows me to shift Mount into the midfield, gives me extra Ziyech on the side. But if Ziyech isn't fit, then we'd have to go with Mount, and Mount has to play the right, and Pulisic has to play the left.
I agree. Unfortunately, I think it might well be the other way around again. I still don't understand why Tuchel keeps doing that. Pulisic is a good player, but he's only a very good player on the left. He's average to decent when you put him anywhere else. So why would you ever put him anywhere else? I don't really understand. It's you're not going to play Alonso right wing back. Do you know what I mean? You would never do that. So why would you put Pulisic on the right wing? I don't it's just not. It's never worked. I know he did that at Dortmund. I get it, but yeah.
I think that's basically it. Is he still sees Pulisic as the Dortmund kid? He doesn't see Pulisic as the player that he became when he came at Chelsea, because he's a very different player at Chelsea. He was never this great at Dortmund. I'm sorry for all the people who've been watching him for a while. It's when he got put on the left, we've seen a more dynamic version of this player. So, unfortunately, he never really got the chance on the left in Dortmund.
Much better on the right as well.
What'd you say?
I said Bundesliga attack, so he also was much better on the right there than he ever was here.
That's true, but he was still not fantastic.
Fair dues. I mean, it's the team. I'd be reasonably happy with this. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Lukaku these days. People know that. But I did feel incredibly bad for him when his goal was ruled out in the final, because likelihood of hit that goal winning it for us if VAR worked properly is huge. So, and that would have been a huge goal for the team, especially with the fact that Roman the day after or 2 days after announced that he's going to sell the club. Man, how annoying is that? The last final. I mean, yes, we rounded out with the Club World Cup, so good, but we still lost a cup final 2 days before Roman Abramovich announced that he was going to sell the club, which to me is very annoying. And he was robbed of that. He got that goal against Luton, but it's still, we just aren't as good with him up top as we are with Havertz. But then, while he's not throwing too much of a hissy fit about not starting, what are the players to bring off the bench, right? Do you know what I mean? Like when Havertz has tired out those centre backs a little bit, and then Romelu can come in and actually do something against those tired centre backs. Can't really ask for much more, really. But in terms of team, I think that's it. Just to finish it off slowly but surely. Let me go to you, Charlie. Do you expect us to go back to a bit like against Liverpool in the cup final, to actually go back to playing well and hopefully winning this time around? Or do you think it's going to be another tough afternoon, but hopefully we still get the win at least?
I think it could be a tough afternoon. I mean, yeah, we played really well in the cup final, but, it's a final. We've done really well in cup competitions since Thomas Tuchel's been here. League performances haven't really been great this entire year, really. If you discount the second half against Liverpool, I don't think we've been that good in the league. But ultimately, for me now, yes, you want to perform well, but it's just about picking the points up at the end of the day. And if we play terribly again and we get a last minute winner like we did against Crystal Palace, then I'm here for it.
Fair dues. No, I mean, I bloody hope so.
I'll always be someone that would rather win every week playing not so desirable football than someone that would rather lose but play well. For me, winning is the ultimate thing. And if that means we don't have to play football that's not that pleasing on the eye, I'm more than happy to support a club that wins.
Yeah, no, I do agree. But if I'm choosing between winning playing well or winning not playing well, then I pick a winner playing well. So,
of course. Yeah, of course.
Is the combination of both.
Yeah.
No, but I definitely see what you're saying. Ian, what about you? What do you expect? A rough one? Or actually us, like Tuchel obviously put it after the cup final, where it's like, we're kind of back a little bit.
I think it's going to be exactly the same as Palace. Maybe that's a bit negative, but I just think it's going to be a bit dull. I think it's going to be a bit boring. It's just about winning the game. I'd love us to go and beat them 3-0 and really just blow them off the park and whatever. But I do see it maybe being another 1-0 game, maybe a nick of 2-0, but I can't see it being a load of goals in it. But I do think if the goals are going to come from anywhere, they're going to come from little interchangeable moves with Havertz up front. So, it's got potential to be great, but being realist, I think it's going to be a 1-0 Chelsea.
Fair. Clutch, let me go to you. What do you expect? And also maybe add your score prediction in there.
I think it depends on the personnel we put out there. If we go with the Havertz and Lukaku, I don't think we're going to get a lot of goals out of that. It has never worked for me, especially if you put Havertz on the left. Because I think you just, for Lukaku, he has to have somebody who puts the ball perfectly in. And yes, Reece James will be there to do that, but is the movement going to be there for Lukaku to actually get into that position? I don't know. I really don't trust Lukaku right now because he really annoyed me, because every time I think about Luton, I think about how he chased down that ball and didn't jump for it. And that's when the goalie got injured. So I still need to see more from him. I need to see him try a little bit harder before I start my road to redemption with him. But if we go with the ones that we put down, I do think we'll have a comfortable 2-0 victory.
Fair dues. Charlie, I haven't got a score prediction from you. What do you think in terms of final result?
I think it could be, like Ian said, it could be very similar to the Palace game. Probably not going to be the most pleasing game on the eye. I suspect more than one goal. I'm going to go, I think we can just about scrape through with a 2-1 win.
Fair. I'm not really sure. I'm feeling either 2-0 or 3-1. I'm not sure. I'll say 2-0 because, we've had, I say that, we conceded 2 against Luton. But when we've had our normal defence on offer and not a really bad Malung in the last game, Ruben Loftus-Cheek centre-back and Rudiger out of position, and Kepa in goal, even though Kepa had nothing to do with the 2 goals we conceded, then, I do think we'll keep that clean sheet. So I'll say 2-0. But here we are, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate every single one of you that has been tuning in today. If you're still here, appreciate you very much. Do subscribe if you haven't already. It's just one click of a button. Make sure you don't miss any of our future streams and potentially at some point videos again, but not currently in the plan. So, streams for the time being, but get subscribed so you don't miss any of those. Smash the like button for me. Let's get to at least 100 likes right now. Just one click of a button. Make sure you subscribe to both my good friends on screen here, Craigo, 28, link is down in the description, as well as Charlie's channel, the Blues Brothers, link is also down in the description. And of course, check out Clutch's Twitter as well. Actually, do go subscribe to Charlie because he's getting closer to 400 subscribers. So please do subscribe to him. Help him reach those 400 subscribers. And, you never know. Every now and again, I just turn up on one of Charlie's streams. So, just get involved with that. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you very, very much. Again, check out Manscaped in the description down below if you haven't already. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we'll see you next time.